Welcome back to HudRod Automotive, where today we're going to be looking at this Alfa Romeo 156 GTA, proudly brought to you by CTW Removals. Go check them out for your removal needs in Aldershot. If you like special cars like this, please like and subscribe. Let's go. So this is a 2002 GTA, the highest spec of this 156. It's got the extra body kit, and this particular example has just over 100,000 miles. And some people do get a little bit interesting with the reliability of Alfas, but this one is driving really good considering that it's 19 years old now. Stepping inside this car, the main thing you're really here for is the engine. So what is it? Well, it's a V6 3.2 litres, which is a lot, of engine to get in a front wheel drive configuration, just like this car. In this spec, it's making 250 horsepower, and the car only weighs 1,400 kilos, which means it is fairly light. It's not as light as it could be, but it's fairly light, making some really good power. And what that means is your experience is very almost aggressive with the way that this car is. It absolutely loves to get up towards the higher RPMs, and that makes it actually really fun to drive. However, you can cruise around them in 6th gear at the moment, 30 miles an hour. It can do it as well. The gearing also seems to be absolutely spot on, helping it get from 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds, 6.1 seconds. That is not slow by any means. It is absolutely rapid, and I was a little bit surprised by that actually when I got in the car. I wasn't really sure what I was going to expect. I was a little bit sort of on the fence about how it was going to be, because I thought, it's an old Alfa Romeo, but it's really earned its respect, I would say, in the way that it's delivered its power and the way that you can drive it. There's just something about it. Could also be the tone of the V6 as well. It just sounds a little bit more race ready, or a little bit more throttle happy than some other cars that you may drive. It's a lot better than if it was a 4-cylinder option in this car. It's a very good idea for them to put in the 3.2 litre V6. A little bit crazy actually to put an engine like that. One downside of that is the steering lock is utterly atrocious. You don't even get one full revolution, and going into parking spaces is a little bit tricky. So I've talked about the power. Let's see how it goes on a 2nd gear pull. God, it really starts to pick up around 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, and that was 2nd gear there, and it's fast, especially if I carried on there into 3rd gear, you'd be moving, and that is such a nice amount of power. It's enough to make you think about it, but it's not too much that you can't use it, because the issue with so many of these cars nowadays, you end up getting 400 or 500 horsepower, and it just gets a bit crazy. Despite saying that it's quite sort of happy to rev out, and it's almost more race related with the way that it is, it's still very smooth. And I guess obviously having the extra couple of cylinders to what you'd normally expect in a car like this, that helps. Having those 6 cylinders makes it a lot more smooth, but it's also the way that they've refined it and the way that they've actually made it themselves is it's just amazing. And I can see the reason why the owner of this car absolutely loves it. Because the funny thing is, the owner of this car is actually a family member of mine, and he had this car years ago, about 15 years ago. Then he saw it come up again. Obviously, he only had it for a couple of years and then sold it. Then he saw it come up and he was like, I have to buy it back. And so he went and bought it back. And it's pretty unbelievable actually how these cars have sort of gone under the radar a little bit. You really don't see many cars like this around, or many of this specific car. I think he said he could only find 3 about, which is, you know, it's making it a little bit more rare, and especially to obviously to have this car with this engine, being the GTA as well. So as you would expect with a 3.2 litre, it's not the best on the fuel. It is, by the stats, rated to be 23 miles per gallon, which, yeah, it's not great. But I definitely wouldn't say that's too big of an issue, because it's not that bad when you consider you're not going to be daily driving this car. It's not that sort of car. It's a little bit more special than that. You are going to be using it only on special occasions, or at the weekend, or on a road trip, or something along those lines. It's not like you're going to be doing 10-15,000 miles a year in it, and that's really going to add up. So I wouldn't be too worried about that if you're looking at a car like this. And also that begs the question, how is reliability and maintenance? Well, at the end of the day, it's an Alfa Romeo. You have so many people who absolutely love Alfa Romeos, and to be honest, especially when you get the more sporty versions, I can understand why. But then you also have loads of people who say, oh, Alfas are so unreliable, all this, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's just what you make of it. It's how much money you want to put into it, and where you want to take the car. But some people with cars like this are a bit special. They really want to almost fix them up, restore them, make them as good as they can be, and really almost show off the fact that they've got a nice car. So for those people, they're going to want to spend all that extra money, and that will add up, especially on a more just a rare, unique car like this. The interior of this car is certainly from 2002, with the way it has these sort of rough materials and that sort of stuff, but that doesn't necessarily say it's bad, because it's got some really good points, such as the main point, the steering wheel is really good. Nice size, pretty comfortable, nothing too fancy, really good. These dials here in the middle, pointing straight at the driver, look absolutely unreal. Such a good thing to have them driver focused all the way towards you. And also these 3 dials in the middle look really modern, way ahead of their time for 2002. And the fact that obviously it's got, you know, auto, it's got the dual control as well. It's much ahead of its time. So there are some good points and bad points. When you look down towards this sort of gear shifter area, it does sort of show its age with these buttons. They look something like you'd get in a early 2000s Renault Clio as well. There's nothing too special about that. But another big talking point is these seats. They are, okay, they're not the most comfortable seats in the world, but they're fairly comfortable, and they're obviously a bit sporty, a little bit more firm, but they look really cool. And they put a lot of design into that, with that design coming into this door card as well. So I actually really like the interior here. There are some points where it could be improved a little bit, and it could be you know, sort of modernized, but obviously it was made in 2002, so it's 20-year-old design, and therefore it's 20-year-old materials, etc. So what about the handling of this car? And as handling goes, the seats, it's actually pretty good, but the issue is the seats don't hold you in enough, really, when you're absolutely pushing it. But it does have a fair amount of grip. It's not as much as, you know, proper sports car, sports coupe or MX-5, something like that, but it will certainly get you about, and that is all the fun. Obviously it is front wheel drive, so it has got the negatives of that, but God, she does accelerate. She really does accelerate when you get on it like that. Jesus, it's got a lot of power, and it keeps on coming, and I think that's the reason actually why this is so fun, because the more you get into it, you get above 4,000 RPM and it still keeps on going. Such a cool experience to drive an engine like that. Overall, it's got a decent front end. Obviously it's got that tiny bit of understeer due to sort of the nature of it, and with it being a huge V6 up the front as well, there's a lot of weight there, which does give it quite a good feel sort of on the entry of corners, but obviously on the mid corner it sort of does push on just a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's not a full-on race car or anything like that. It is really just meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be just taken around a track per se. It could, but it's not really for that. It's just for being fun, having a bit of speed about it, having a bit of capability, and it does that very well. The road and cabin noise is a little bit high, I'm not going to lie, especially the road noise underneath. Obviously it is 2002, so it's not going to have the best seals and the best sound deadening compared to modern cars, and I feel myself needing to speak a little bit louder just because of the general noise in this car. But in terms of like exhaust noise and that, it's very good. I'm sure some people do put some bad boy exhaust on it, but this one doesn't seem to have anything like that. It's at a very respectable level, and you could easily have a conversation in here. But I do feel it's a little bit higher than what a more modern car would want. However, it's perfectly acceptable, and I'm not really struggling with it that badly. The steering is really nice. Beyond obviously just the fact of oversteer, understeer, the actual feeling that you get through the wheel is nice. The feedback you get, it's sort of a nice firm feeling. It's not too soft. The only issue I have with it is because it's a front-wheel drive V6. There's not a lot of room in the sort of engine bay area for the tyres to turn into. So unfortunately, there is a lack of steering angle, which unfortunately means getting to some parking spaces today has been a little bit interesting. If you're buying a car like this, you're not going to be needing it to park it in cities and park it in tight spaces anyway. Considering this car's got over 100,000 miles now as well, there's no knocks, bangs, rattles. It's obviously been well looked after. I know there was some money spent on it recently as well in the suspension department. Overall, I'd say it's a very iconic car. In some way, it's going to be very rare. I mean, it already is very rare. We can only find one other on Auto Trader of this car, but it does have that weird quirk and that weird nature about it. So you've got to be really into your Alphas if you want to buy it. The styling of this 156 I think can be a little bit controversial. My personal preference is not the absolute best looking car in the world, but it certainly sticks out and it has some really quirky points about it, and that makes this a rather unique car. You don't see too many cars like this on the road. Alfa Romeo really have a way of styling that sticks out from the rest, and that makes this car even more special than it already is. The alloys and wheels on this car are actually something that I do really like. This design with these circles I think is an unbelievable design. For some reason it just works, and the fact that you can see that awesome Alfa Romeo badge on those really big 4-pot brake calipers as well is good. So not only do they stop well, but they look good, and got some decent tyres on it also. So the final part of this car is obviously the amazing Busso V6. It's a pretty stunning engine bay. It's got those 6 intake runners there, which look unbelievable, to be honest. That really, as a centerpiece, not only of the engine physically, but also just as obviously in its design as well. Really good looking engine bay. As I mentioned, obviously the owner is going to be cleaning it up and making it look even nicer than this, but just as it sits now as a used car, it is looking absolutely amazing. I don't think anyone can lie that that is a really good looking engine bay, and you can just see the amount of space a V6 takes up, obviously compared to a 4-cylinder, which would be roughly the same size as one bank, but obviously there's 2, and that is why the steering isn't obviously the best in this car, but you definitely would be happy to give up a bit of steering angle for that amazing engine. So we hope you enjoyed this look around this 156 GTA. It's a really special car. We absolutely love it. It's a bit quirky, a bit different in certain ways, but it certainly stands out. And if you do like this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.